Hey guys, it's Brandon, aka B.Rich Beauty, aka your beauty best friend, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about sunscreen, the why, the how, and the must-dos of it all. So you know what to do. Grab your beverage. Let's go. Hey beauty besties, how you doing out there, sugar? What you sipping on over there? Who, me? Just a little botanical infused liquor and a little bit of sparkling water, you know, keeping the calories low. Cheers to you. So let's have a real talk, beauty besties. Why do we need sunscreen? Well, 90% of premature aging comes from sun damage. Ultraviolet light that comes from the sun, UVA, UVB rays, right, damages our skin over time. Now, before we go any further, y'all know I'm not a doctor. I'm just your beauty best friend. So all of these things that I'm gonna be talking about today is my opinion based off of years of experience working in the beauty industry and just being a beauty aficionado. So if you have real questions, make sure you consult your doctor, okay? I know you're probably thinking this, beauty best friend, but our body needs vitamin D. You're right, our body does. But that does not mean that we can just sit out in the sun and bake like banana bread. We have to protect our face and our skin. So in order to do that, we're gonna talk about why sunscreen is important, the different types of sunscreen, and I'm gonna even walk you through how to apply it. And another thing, y'all know I'm melanated too, and I just wanna put it out there. I hear a lot of people, my color and people of color, like, well, I'm black, I don't need to use sunscreen. Knock, knock. Yes, you do. Because black don't crack, but we don't want to dry out the black either. So that means even as melanated people, we have to protect our skin and we have to give ourselves that level of protection from UVA and UVB rays so that way we don't have premature aging, sun damage, and skin cancer. Y'all hear me? All the people in the back that are melanated, all this black boy magic, this black girl magic over there, y'all need to wear sunscreen. Don't make me fight you. And I say that with love. Mwah. So what does SPF even mean? Well, it stands for Sun Protection Factor, which basically means this is the protection that you get when you're outside and you want to avoid being burnt by the sun. The SPF allows you to avoid being burnt. Now let's talk about it. Close your eyes. Picture this. Outside, 2021, and you go outside with no protection on, and you're outside for 10 minutes and you start to burn. Now, if you have an SPF of 30, that means you're able to be outside 30 times longer before you start to burn. So the number of your SPF reflects to how much longer you can be outside before you start to burn. Now let's do some easy math, because y'all know I'm a makeup artist, not a mathematician. Now, if you could be outside for 10 minutes before you start to burn and you're wearing an SPF 30, that means you're able to be outside for 300 minutes or 5 hours before you start to burn. Again, 30 times longer. So if you burn at 10 minutes, 10 times 30 is 300 minutes, AKA 5 hours. So you have 5 hours worth of protection against UVA, UVB rays before you start to burn. Now that does not mean that you just frolic in the sun for 5 hours and don't reapply, because we're gonna talk about reapplication, but that's how you can determine what level of sunscreen you need, because the lower the number, the more frequently you're gonna have to apply and the less protection you'll have, and the higher the number, the more protection. Now let's talk about a little bit of marketing. I see SPF 80, SPF 100, and all that great jazz. Child, if you had an SPF of 50 times 10, that's 1,000 minutes, AKA 16 hours in the sun. It makes no sense because you would have to reapply anyways before the 16 hours in order for it to really be effective. And like I mentioned, we're gonna talk about reapplication a little bit later, but just know, like, I cap out after 50 because anything after 50 is all about marketing because you have to end up reapplying. So in order to find the perfect sunscreen for you, we have to also understand the different types of sunscreen. There's two types of sunscreen. You have a physical or a mineral sunscreen, that's one and the same, or you have a chemical sunscreen. What's the difference, beauty best friend? I'm so glad you asked. If it's a physical sunscreen, the ingredients are gonna be things along the lines of zinc oxide, titanium dioxide. And physical sunscreens are great for those that have sensitive skin. So your physical sunscreens are great because they block UVA and UVB rays from the sun. aka broad spectrum. So when you're looking for any type of sunscreen, whether it's physical or chemical, look for broad spectrum. You want to protect yourself from both. UVA rays penetrates deeper. This is what causes the collagen damage and can create signs of aging, right? UVB penetrates the topical layer of the skin, and this is what also predisposes us to skin cancers and fine lines, wrinkles, things like that. So you want to ensure that your sunscreen, again, whether physical or chemical, will protect you from that broad spectrum, the UVA and UVB. Now, if we're going for a physical / mineral sunscreen, these are more topical. So they sit on top of the skin, they reflect the UVA, UVB rays. And so what that means is oftentimes if you apply it, you might see a little bit of a cast, especially if you're deeper in complexion. It doesn't normally disappear when you apply it onto the skin. You see that little white film, and it can feel a little heavy on the skin. Chemical sunscreens have a tendency to disappear and feel a little bit lighter, which is the reason why most of us like a good chemical sunscreen, to be honest. So let's talk about chemical sunscreen. This is the one that we use the most because like I mentioned, this disappears on the skin. This actually, when you put on a chemical sunscreen, it creates a film around the skin, which is the reason why you're supposed to apply it 20 to 30 minutes before you actually go outside. Because what that does, a chemical sunscreen absorbs the UVA and UVB rays and helps to disperse it as energy. So whereas the physical sunscreen reflects, the chemical sunscreen absorbs it and disperses it, right? So when you're looking at sunscreens and you see things with like oxybenzone, avobenzone, oxynoctate, and homosalate, what you call me? Yes, homosalate. No, I'm just joking. When you see ingredients that look like that, those ingredients typically are chemical sunscreens. Now let's talk about the fact that chemical sunscreen actually lose potency over time. So if you have a sunscreen that's chemical and you've had it for a couple of years, you might want to throw it away if it's older than 3 years because, again, these ingredients lose potency over time. So just as a little tip between you and I, because you know I'm your beauty best friend child, and I had to also throw away a few of my sunscreens. So I was like, ooh, this is a little old. So yes, I just wanted to share that with y'all. And just as an FYI, if you're applying a chemical sunscreen and you start to feel burning, tingling, or some kind of sensation, child, Molly, you're in danger, girl. Stop it, wash it off, and don't use it. Oftentimes, chemical sunscreen can be a little irritating for those that have sensitive skin. And if you are more sensitive, then you may have to go into like a physical mineral sunscreen, just as a tip. And then just to throw out a few bonus sunscreen as options, you have sunscreens that are actually a little bit of a combo that has a few physical ingredients and a few chemical ingredients. So if that works for you, look for that as well. And if you real fancy child, ooh, Chile, there's great brands of Korean sunscreen. The technology is magnificent. So if you can come across a good old Korean sunscreen, honey, grab you one because again, the technology is amazing and you may like that because it's a little bit more modern than what we typically use for sunscreen. Just a little tip, you know, I'm all full of tips, honey. Take a sip. Now that we understand the types of sunscreen, how do you apply it? Don't just slather it on. Apply your sunscreen with intentional purpose to make sure you cover all your bits and parts, child. Now, to help you with this and how to apply your sunscreen on your face, watch this. So I'm gonna walk you through how I like to apply my SPF. I've already cleansed, serum to moisturize, and eye cream, darling. So this is literally the last step before I do my makeup. So I give it a little shake. This one is by MAC. This is the SPF 50 Face Protect. I've been using it for years. I love it because it's also oil controlling and you know, he's oily. So I like to give myself a nice little generous amount in the palm of my hand like this. I'm gonna rub it together to thin it out. And then I like to start in the center of my face. I'll work up, pull it down around my ears, and then I go under into my neck, into my chest, the décolleté, and I finish with the back of my neck. So I'm covering all types of exposed skin, honey, and making sure my SPF is on. Now, if you want a little bit more, then add a little bit more, but I find for me that's a generous enough application to cover my face, my neck and décolleté, the back of my neck, and my ears, because those are the main places you want to hit when you're applying your SPF before you start your makeup. Face, neck, chest, ears, back of your neck. Now that we got that covered, excuse me as I finish getting dressed for this video. All right, so just to kind of recap, make sure you're not only covering the face, but you're doing your neck, your décolleté, the back of your neck, your ears, and any other exposed skin that you're gonna have exposed to the sun for prolonged periods of time. And if you're gonna go to the beach like I like to do, wear a hat and some sunglasses, protect your eyes and definitely give yourself some shade. Again, you don't want to just be sitting out there baking like Little Miss Muffet, okay? So let's also talk about finding the perfect SPF based off of your skin type as well, because that's something to take into consideration. Y'all know your boy is oily, so I like to make sure my SPF or my sunscreen helps to control my oil. So if you're looking for a good one, make sure you're looking for something that's going to be mattifying or oil controlling. If you are oily, maybe even finding a gel textured SPF because it feels lighter on the face and it doesn't feel heavy. If you're dry, you want to make sure you're finding a sunscreen that also has additional hydrating properties to it. So look for ingredients like hyaluronic acid and also things that are going to be more moisturizing as well. Now there's also a difference. I'm gonna just go ahead and call this out. You have a foundation that has sunscreen in it, and then you're also supposed to wear sunscreen. So if my sunscreen, my SPF is SPF 10, and my foundation has an SPF of 25 in it, it does not combine itself to be an SPF of 35. Wherever the higher SPF will win, always. Now, what I also will say with this is that you also want to ensure that you do have a physical SPF that's separate from your moisturizer or your foundation. Because if you're all talking about reapplying, the reality of it is you're not going to reapply that moisturizer or that foundation throughout the day to make sure you maintain your SPF factor. So that's why you also want to have a good SPF that's separate outside of your moisturizer or your foundation. Just another tip. And last but not least, in terms of SPF, reapply, reapply, reapply. Now, on average, you're supposed to reapply every 2 hours because if you're out and about, you're sweating, if you're on the beach, you're getting wet, even if it's waterproof, over time, it starts to break itself down. So on average, 2 hours is a really great benchmark to reapply your SPF. If you're gonna be more physically active, and you know you are, then try reapplying every hour. I know it sounds like a lot, but this is how you maintain not only the SPF. In addition, just another thing I thought about, say for instance, you're taking your SPF and maybe your foundation doesn't have an SPF in it. Know that if you apply your SPF into your foundation, you're also diluting the efficacy of it, meaning the effectiveness and the potential strength as well. So you wanna make sure that you keep that in mind. Find you a product that's gonna be designated with the SPF in it for your moisturizer and foundation, and make sure you have your side SPF on the side, child. Now, if you decide to go with a spray or a powder for your SPF, just know that it doesn't always distribute itself evenly, so you're gonna have to make sure you work really, really hard to make it nice and even. And that's it. That brings us to the end of our SPF conversation. I hope this helps you understand what formula works best for you, whether it's physical or chemical. Do you know how to apply it now? And do you know how to reapply it? I hope you said yes to all of that. Guys, leave me a comment and let me know what you think about this video for real. But in the meantime, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel if you like this video if you like, and leave me a comment. Most importantly, check them notifications. Make sure they're turned on. Who loves you? I do. Happy sunning. Bye.